BusanKevin. Kevin in Japan.
BusanKevin here on a rainy day coming to you. I want to talk to you a little bit about today about teaching, and I want to talk to you about inside the classroom. A viewer asked me a question: if I go to South Korea, what can I expect in the classroom as far as curriculums go, and how can I prepare to teach? And that's a really tough question to answer. Yeah. So basically, the majority of people, the vast majority of people who go somewhere like Korea or Japan or Taiwan or China to teach English don't have experience in the classroom. I know I didn't, certainly, when I first went many years ago to become a teacher. Now, every school is really completely different. It is, schools are like night and day, apples and oranges, to use some analogies. What one school does will be completely different from another as far as curriculum goes, discipline, management of students. They're all over the place. I'll give you a few examples. One school I worked in for a year, which was a kindergarten / elementary school, so they had an after-school program. They basically used some very common English ESL textbooks. And basically what they do is if they took a book, if they had 30 classes or 30 days, they'd take a 60-page book and they just divide it by 2. They're like, okay, you're going to teach 2 pages a day. And, you know, there was a lot of times no rhyme, nor reason. I mean, they just, you know, cut units in the middle. They didn't obviously look at the content of the book. They just divided it all up. So lessons didn't flow. And you're going to find that at most schools you're going to work at, they've sold workbooks to the parents, and they're really going to push you. You have to use these workbooks every day. They want the kids sitting in the chairs, butts on the chairs, using the workbooks. Now, I also worked at a school for a year where there was absolutely zero curriculum. There was nothing. I mean, it was just a real thrown together kind of shoddy deal. The school owner had no background in education, nor did he really care. He had actually been a former minister, like a church minister, who decided that he'd make his millions by opening up an English school. So I was sent to the ESL bookstore to pick up books that I wanted to teach. Now, I didn't have a lot of a background. I didn't have much of a background in teaching at that point, so it was hard for me to make a good decision on what books would be appropriate for the level of my students. So I did the best I could, and I chose some different texts. And but you know, there was really no guidance, no schedule, so I had to kind of do it myself. Now, today, more than 7 years as a teacher, I'd be very comfortable in doing that. But at the time, having very little experience, it was very daunting. And yeah, so that school essentially had no curriculum, and it was up to me to kind of try to create one. Another school I worked at, a big franchise chain in Korea, had a very ironclad curriculum. They had a very good curriculum in my opinion, but I mean, they had it mapped down to the 5 minutes. You would teach a 3-hour class with kids, and everything was mapped down. You'd spend a few weeks in training. You'd have to memorize the schedule. And basically you did not deviate from the curriculum. That wasn't allowed. You know, if you complained about it or didn't want to do it, we'll go find a job elsewhere. So basically, their ironclad curriculum, and it worked well. I mean, the kids really picked up English by using this curriculum. But there wasn't really any room for creativity on your part, or, you know, just jumping outside the box and doing something on your own. We're also going to find often, because of the Confucian cultural system in Korea, that age and grades are very important. So children are usually put in grades based upon their age, not their ability, not their English level. And that can be very frustrating. So you're going to have children, maybe, say for example, if you're teaching an elementary class, you could have kids who are like 10 years old. Some of them are almost fluent English speakers, some barely know the alphabet, and they're all together and you're expected to teach the same thing. So that can also be very frustrating. It's really hard to prepare for a classroom inside Korea. All I can say, find some good online resources to have a bag of tricks. Any teacher who has been teaching English for a while, or any subject for that matter for a while, eventually they acquire, I call it a bag of tricks. So if things ever fall apart or you need an activity, something to do, you have a lot of things already in the back of your mind, or you have those supplies on hand, whether it be flashcards or games, different things like that. So I would say find some good online resources. There's a lot of wonderful websites out there for ESL teachers, and know those, have those, and basically when you get to your school, you're going to find out what you've got. It's really hard for me to tell you what to do, how to prepare, because every school is going to be different. Some will have really good curriculums, some will have zero curriculums, some will have very unprofessional management, some will have you'll have unprofessional coworkers who don't care, and you'll have, in some schools, very dedicated, professional, serious coworkers who could be good resources as well. So it's really hard to say. All I can say really is, in my opinion, do your research before you go. Find some good online resources for ESL teachers, and there's a lot out there. I'll put a few links on the side to a couple of websites that I recommend, that I use regularly. Yeah, so that's all from BusanKevin, and it's a little bit about, you know, curriculums in the classroom in Korea and elsewhere, and how you can prepare. And again, there's not a whole lot of advice for how you can prepare, but at least maybe that'll give you a little bit of a heads up on what you might expect when you head overseas to teach. So good luck, and hope everything works out for you.
BusanKevin, Kevin in Japan. BusanKevin.